I admitted it. I admitted to everybody in the audience. I am a perfectionist. I like things done a specific way. What up, YouTube family and folks? This is Kevin's perspective, the perspective that keeps on giving, back to give another one. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty. You see the title. We're going to talk about stress management today. It's been a stressful week for me, particularly. Very stressful. But I have a guest on today, and we're going to talk about stress management. She's been on before. Y'all seen it before in the earlier episode about do you want to be in a relationship? Y'all can check that interview out. But today we're going to talk about how we're managing our stress. We are not experts at managing stress, but we're going to talk about it to try to vent some of this stuff out. You know what I'm saying? So let me bring in my guest, Miss Kennedy Corley.
Hello,
How you
hello,
doing, Kennedy?
hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm picking up pieces and we gonna, go from there. So I said my week was stressful. So I know I talked to you about stress management a while ago, and I just
Mhm.
felt like it might just be the perfect time to talk about it. So I'm gonna throw out a scenario, right?
Okay.
For you, it's a work day. It is 8 o'clock. You don't get off work until 4 o'clock.
Okay.
You have 10 more hours of work and it's already crazy. What is going through your mind at that moment?
I'm ready to get off.
Okay.
Honestly,
That's how you manage the stress? Okay.
there's like a period of time where I'm focused and I'm really into whatever's going on because usually work is already crazy. There's a million things to handle. There's a million fires to put out on top of the people that I manage. Got to deal with whatever they have going on or whatever they don't want to do. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
after I get past I'm focused, I'm here, I'm ready to get this day started and have a good day. There's always one or two things that's like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Okay. So how long does that last? Like, what's that period of time from, okay, it's crazy right now. How do I get to a point where I'm manageable to, my stress level is a little bit level?
Mm. Some days it could be maybe an hour or two. Some days you don't really get stressed until, you're right about to go home and you're trying to fix everything and make sure everything is nice and presentable for whoever is coming in next. And that's when the stress gets really bad because you're on your way out the door, but stuff is hitting the fan.
You talking about as far as life in general, or you talking about the environment?
Environment, the environment at
Okay.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let me go back to what you just said about dealing with other people's stuff.
Mhm.
So, managing other people. How is your leadership style, or how
Mhm.
does your leadership style play into how you manage stress?
Okay. I think that I've always been kind of a background leader. I'm good at picking out what others are good at or the strengths that they may have,
Hmm.
and kind of pushing them towards, hey, you're really good at this. I want you to work on it, or I want you to be confident in this because you're really good at it. I'm not a person or a manager or a leader who errs on the side of micromanaging because I know what my team can do, and I'd rather push them to do it or push them to be their best selves versus being on them at every step, like, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be done, that kind of thing. So I've always kind of characterized myself as a background leader. um, Growing into that has been a little tough because I've learned that different people need a different type of leader.
Hmm.
Some people you can't just tell them what they're good at and they're like, okay, let me capitalize on it. Some of them for some individuals, you really have to be there with them step by step, kind of being a cheerleader for them, but also holding them accountable for whatever they are or are not doing.
Now let's be real though, Kennedy. Let's talk about being a cheerleader. It can stress you out being a cheerleader, because even though everybody's kind of like across the board, supposed to be across the board. So, like you said, some people need different leaders or different leadership to be able to motivate them to do certain things, but sometimes that can stress you out when you realize that maybe I'm not the leader for them,
Hmm.
but I'm the only leader they got. So at that point, where how do you maneuver with that? Even just from your personal standpoint, not just with them, because they might shut down, they might do whatever. But as far as with you, how do you manage that stress level at that point of saying, you know what, I'm not gonna let this get to me, or this is irritating me, or saying like what's going through your mind at that point?
Personally, I'm an introvert. I guess an introverted extrovert. Like I'm different when I'm around different people, but on a very base level, like I'm an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
So being that cheerleader for other people or just everyone else in general, it takes a lot out of me, and that causes a lot of stress for me. Because there's a certain point where I'm like, okay, I need a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be away from people. Um, and that playing into being a leader, I've learned to ask people, especially when I first meet them, like, who do you look up to? Who is the person that has motivated you all of this time? Some people say their parents or their mother or whoever, big brother. Um,
Don't nobody say Jesus, huh?
no,
No.
surprisingly not.
Oh yeah, okay.
Um, but what I kind of tell them to do is find someone in your work circle or one of your coworkers that reminds you of that person, and or even just tell me who they are, and I'll figure out how they can be a mentor for you or how I can kind of mesh the two of you together in order for you to feel like you're motivated at work if you're not getting that from me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I get it. All of my leaders, not just at my current job, but at other jobs that I've had, you just don't get along with everyone. You don't mesh well with everyone. That's okay. That's normal. But you really have to find someone that is a good mentor for you, that kind of sees you for who you are and sees your strengths and weaknesses without sugarcoating it,
Mm-hmm.
and will be a good motivator for you. But it just depends on who you are and what you want at that point.
Yeah, I kind of want to go because you said something about like getting away for a second, and I want to talk about decompressing. Like
Mhm.
it's different times and levels of decompressing, but I know for me, I don't care if Twin Towers is falling. I'm leaving. I'm going to get away for a sec. I need my moment.
Mhm.
So it's like I mean, even for me, I have certain expressions on my face, so it's kind of hard for me to hide that I need a moment sometimes. So I'm kind of walking off, going into a corner somewhere. I'm going into a room somewhere, and it's like, okay, I need to get away so I can gather my thoughts, gather my energy,
Mhm.
and not project anything on nobody that don't warrant it. So I know sometimes some people may wait until it calms down before they leave or whatever the case is. But me, I'm like, it's the fire is falling. I'll be right back. Yeah, I'm still gonna be right back. I don't care. So how do you take that moment of or realize, okay, I need to take this moment, and how long is that for you? Because some people, it takes different times to decompress. For me, it might take a song for me to decompress. That's like 4 minutes. Other
Okay.
people might need an hour. So, like what what is that decompression for you?
Oh man. If the building is on fire and everything is just crashing and burning, I'll probably try and help for a minute. I've noticed that, especially recently, I won't leave in the middle of the chaos because I don't know. I guess I've just conditioned myself to leave something a little bit better than I found it, even if it's not perfect, which is not going to be perfect. But for some reason, I can't leave in the middle of the chaos. So I try and make sure that something is at least um, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay, or it works for someone or it works for the team, and then I'll step away for a second. Um, Now, in no way do I have the capacity to just be okay in the span of 4 minutes or a song. Um,
I mean,
I wish.
that was exaggerating though. I take longer than that. That was just
I wish.
exaggerating.
Sometimes it takes me maybe 20 to 30 minutes, depending on whatever or however I feel stressed. Like if I get really overwhelmed, it may take an hour. And that's just because either I'm on the phone with someone who, knows how to keep me calm or calm me down or just kind
Mm.
of ground me in a way, or I just need complete silence because I need to think about what the next steps are, what I can do to make the situation better, even if it's just for the time being until I leave work or until I leave the situation. Um, yeah, it takes time for
It do
me.
take
I
time.
need I need a break.
Yeah, it do take time. I mean, like I guess the way I look at it, if especially at work, um, if nobody's life is in danger, I'm gone. I'm not gonna act like I'm in the war field or I'm surgeon in the emergency room. I'm out of
Hmm.
here. And it's only because, I try to at certain times, I guess I look at it like if I spend the majority of my day putting everybody else first, I'm gonna take this time to be like, okay, I'm putting myself first. I don't care what nobody else got going on
Hmm.
because I need to be me in order to help you. So um, that's part of my decompression throughout the day or even throughout the week, especially on my days off or whatever I'm doing. I find the time now to say, you know what, I'm going to cut everything off. This is my time. I don't care how nobody feels about it. This is
Hmm.
me. So this is that is just the mindset I have as far as decompressing. Um, but I
Now,
did want to talk about. You say what?
what I have found that I've liked recently is, so I work night shift. I
Mm-hmm.
get off like 3 in the morning most of the time, and
Mm,
nobody's awake, and I love it because I don't have to call anybody, which sometimes I do, depending on who's awake. But I don't have to call anybody. I have a certain set of playlists that I listen to depending on my mood,
mm-hmm.
and I'll use that to decompress on my way home. When I get home, I don't have to talk to anyone, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that. It's that silence, or just that I'm by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about anybody else. That really helps me decompress.
Well, they say that 3 in the morning is the best time to think and be in your own solitude, your own solace, because everybody sleep.
Hmm.
So you just up with the dreamers, and it's like, now I can really know what I'm thinking. I can really hear myself think now
Yep.
and
And you don't
figure
have
some
the
stuff out.
noise of like the traffic on the road because there's nobody on the road almost. Just truckers, honestly. Um, you don't have to worry about traffic. You don't have to worry about someone cutting you off on your way home. The only thing you can't do is go by and get something to eat. It's really nothing open at 3 in the morning.
It's like Waffle House or something like that, right?
But that's Waffle House. You
Denny's.
can't do that every day.
Denny's maybe. I don't know. No, it ain't nothing. Well, it depends on the city you live in.
That's true.
That's why I love like cities that those big cities because everything is always open. I
Hmm.
like that. But I did want to talk about. You think about how we grew up. Well, you younger than me, so it's a different era. But still, you think about how we grew up, and we grew up in schools where we had guidance counselors,
Hmm.
right? And the guidance counselors weren't necessarily connected to your day-to-day academics or production or performance or whatever. So they were resources that you can go to when you needed someone to talk to, someone to, vent to or whatever the case is, unless they came to you. If they came to you, you had a problem. But if you went to them, then you had someone to really get off any problems, whether outside of work, not outside of school, in school, whatever. And we grow up with that resource
That's
and
true.
then you go into the workforce. You leave school, go into the workforce, and then now it's just you. And they go into what it goes into calling themselves HR, but it's not the same because the guidance counselor wasn't in control of my tuition. They wasn't in control of my grades.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to have that same resource because me personally, I feel as though jobs in general should have a resource on site, not no call in line or a website. I'm talking about on site, a coach or a counselor that people can go to in the midst of their day.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not attached to their paycheck. So, like, you got these open door policies at jobs and stuff like that, but people are weary because how can you really trust talking to someone who pays you?
Right.
So, um, or is in control of your payroll, who's in control of your benefits? It's a different level of trust that got to go with that. So, um, that was just something I noticed the other day. Really, I was like, "Yo, we grew up with guidance counselors, and out of nowhere, we just dismissed, and now we got to go pay for a therapist or a coach instead of it being an actual resource in our everyday life, the way it was growing up in
Yeah.
school." So,
One
have
thing
you?
I've oh sorry.
No, go ahead.
One thing I've noticed about just being an adult in general, and I know that seems kind of it seems kind of laughable coming from me because I'm figuring all this stuff out now as a
Mm,
23-year-old, but uh, you have to figure out everything for yourself, and that causes a lot of stress because you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I want to work? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to go straight to the workforce? Do I have unresolved things from my childhood that I need to figure out or just resolve within myself or with my family or friends? Do I need a therapist? And like you said, you had all these things that kind of at your disposal as a kid and growing up in school. You had people that you could go talk to. If it was your football coach or your choir director, your guidance counselor, you had all these people that you could go to. And if you ask about it now, most people will say, well, you still have people you can go to and talk to, but it's not the same
no.
because at this point you're having to be or you have to be very vulnerable about what you have going on instead of and I say that for the reason being um, you don't know who these people are connected to
Mm-hmm.
and there's a chance that my information might get out especially if you like you said go talk to HR
Mm-hmm.
because your paycheck may be tied to them or that's just not their job.
Mm-hmm.
They have things to deal with that are going on in the workplace and then you're dumping or not dumping but you're telling them all of the things that you have going on at home or just in your personal life and that's a lot for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trained to do that so that in itself adds a lot of stress of figuring out all these different people or all these different things that you need and who do I go to for this stuff, who do I go to
No, I
talk
don't.
about
I
this
don't.
stuff.
I don't know who you can really run to. You said that, it reminded me of that Escape song. Who can I run to? Like that's pretty much how it is because it's like you can go to whoever you want to go to.
Hmm.
The problem is who do you trust enough to
Hmm.
be able to give information that will actually be beneficial even for you. Like even if the advice you might not even see as genuine sometimes because you may go in with life on mind, but they're always going to be job on mind.
Exactly.
So the question or the feedback may be, well, how is this affecting your job performance? How is this going as far as throughout your workday? And you're like,
Hmm.
no, I don't care about work right now. They
That's
don't want
not
to
what we're
hear
here
that.
for.
That's You don't want to hear that. So I feel as though many jobs in general should have an on-site have in their budget an on-site counselor, coach, therapist, whatever the case. Because if they can afford, I've seen many jobs afford a corporate coach or an executive coach to get
Mhm.
everybody's work performance up, then you can afford a mental or a health coach to help people with their mental health and efficiency through life.
Yeah.
Um,
Or if you
so
think about it this way, and I know this happened a lot more. I saw it a lot more when I was growing up. Most of the corporate buildings would have a daycare attached to whatever the building site or the work site was, to
mhm,
give parents who work there, opportunity. Hey, if you want to put your kid in daycare here, you can see them throughout the day if you want to, or you can come check on them, and that takes the stress out of figuring out, well, where am I going to send my kids to daycare? Do I have to commute to go take them? Do I have to go pick them up after work? Whatever.
mhm,
Um, it's the same thing if you want people to work at their best or be their best at work and deliver on the things that they've been asked to do, provide them with some sort of mental health or just someone they can talk to, like a coach or a
mhm.
therapist of some sort. It doesn't have to be specific to them or their issue, just someone who's there, dedicated for that kind of thing.
Just be there. Just be there. Just be a shoulder to lean on. That's
Hmm.
all it is. Um, but I'm gonna go into I'm gonna pivot a little bit and talk about disappointment as far as dealing with disappointments.
Hmm.
So, um, part of the reason why my week was stressful is because of dealing even with disappointments throughout the week. So, disappointments can add stress to your life. And I was like, why am I stressed out? And I had to think about it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably what it was. So,
Hmm.
sometimes disappointments happen where you plan for something or prepare for something and it doesn't work out the way you thought it was or the way you wanted it to, really.
Hmm.
And then you get disappointed by it. And then your disappointment turns into stress because now you're like, you internalize, you might internalize. I know me, cancer season, we internalize stuff sometimes. So you might internalize it and make it more personal than it should be. I try not to do that. But um it goes into becoming stressful because then you're thinking about what to do next, what
Hmm.
happened before, and you go into this mind spiral sometimes. So how do you throughout work, how do you deal with disappointment and how does that factor into stress for you?
Mm. So my job kind of revolves around it's a production based thing.
Mm-hmm.
How much can you do in a certain amount of time, which ours is 10 hours. Um,
So it's full of disappointments when is that?
you're on a time limit and I need you to do this much. So I guess stress does factor into that because if you don't hit a certain number, sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm analyzing what can I do better in the next 3 hours or the next 4 hours to either hit this number or get really close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're managing a team of, you know, 60 to 80 people, sometimes that can be really tough because
Mm-hmm.
you're managing all these personalities, you're managing whatever people have going on in their lives, and you're managing their energy levels as well. Because, like I said, I work at night, so
Mm-hmm.
throughout the shift, people are getting really tired, or they're just unenthused. They're ready to go home. It's just not working out anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that in itself factors into stress levels because if you are not doing at least what you planned, sometimes it's like, well, what am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And just like you say, you're a Cancer, I'm a Pisces. I internalize everything and
Oh
overthink
yeah, definitely.
everything.
Definitely.
Oh my
Pisces
gosh.
definitely do.
So,
Twice over.
like, what did I do wrong? What happened? Like, literally thinking about everything. Um, and along with that, like, I'm kind of in a different work environment, where, I'm still learning the department or learning how everything works and how everything is intermingled. Um, so that has caused me a lot of stress as well.
Mhm.
because I'm the type of person, I want to do well. If my name is on it, I want it to be done right, and I want it to say this is the standard, or this is how you're supposed to do it. Um,
Oh, we gonna
and
get. I'm sorry. We gonna get in a minute. We gonna get into being a perfectionist because I want
oh
to talk
man,
about that too. Cause I know I am. I admit
yes,
it. So we gonna get into that. But yeah, continue.
yeah, I'm definitely a perfectionist because I want my team to do well, and I want to make sure that as a whole, we understand the goal that we all need to meet. But when none of that is working, or none of that is uh, working out the way I planned it, I'm also a big planner. If something doesn't go to plan, it's like the world is ending. Um, what did I do wrong? What did I mess up? What did I not account for?
Hmm.
And that's all night. So the stress levels are very high when it comes to work sometimes. As far as like personal life, same thing. I try to plan everything, but I've learned recently that that's just not, most of the time, that's not viable. And along with that, like I've had a lot of different changes happen all at the same time. So figuring out, what do I prioritize? What do I actually worry about?
Hmm.
What do I put on the back burner for later and overthink later? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can be viable, but it's like it depends on how you plan. I guess for me, what I've learned or what I'm learning is, when they say plan for the best, prepare for the worst. I think that's what they said. I think that's the
Hmm.
way it goes. For me now is I plan for the best. I may prepare for the worst, but I also plan for nothing. And I plan for what's next after the worst. Because sometimes we may plan for something, thinking that we planning for something, and there's no result at all. And the reason why we get disappointed is because we think it should be a result. It should have been a
Okay.
result for the plan. All this planning I did, something better happened from all this
I bet
planning I
it's
did.
something.
I better get something out of it. But sometimes it's like I have to plan, but also know that nothing can probably come out of it, which can take away from the disappointment because now it takes the entitlement out of it. Because sometimes it's a sense of entitlement
Mhm.
of thinking that I planned something, so something should happen. So it takes away that entitlement. And once you take the entitlement away, that kind of takes a lot of the disappointment away because now you can say, well, it didn't happen, so whatever. So
Yeah.
now I go into my backup plan or having the backup plan for the backup plan or whatever the case is and planning for what's next. So me, I'm a very strategic person. I'm very like what's the word I'm looking for? It's not analytical. No, I can't think of the word right now, but I'm gonna stick with strategic. So I plan stuff out very far.
Hmm.
Like I play chess. So I plan stuff out very far. So sometimes I plan to where I know not to take away from anybody else or what they doing, but I still factor in that they might not be dependable. I mean, that's just how I think sometimes. So
Okay.
it's like I may plan for if it don't work out, this is what I'm gonna do. So I don't ever feel like I'm wasting my time planning for a result that may or may not happen. So it's like, and on top of that, it has to do with priorities too. Because when you mention priorities, like in the team environment, with whether it be a team at work, whether it be your team, you going out, whatever the case is, um, your priorities, it depends on like what everybody's list is.
Hmm.
So I just learned this recently, to be honest. Like, if I have on my plan, we both have the same, me and my teammate both have the same goal. We both know what the goal is, but the
Hmm.
goal may be on a top priority for me and a bottom priority for them. So
Exactly.
now it's like, we like, where's the disconnect? We both know what we're supposed to be doing, but the priorities is different.
Hmm.
So now I'm stressing out I'm looking at them like, yo, you ain't stressed. Why are you not stressed? I mean, we got the same goal. I'm seeing stuff falling from hell right now. Like, what's going on right now? Why are you not stressed? But it was on the bottom of their priority anyway. It was just at the top of mine. So now I've added more stress to myself, assuming that we had the same, that we was on the same priority plane, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, and you brought up a good point. I was finishing up a TV show last night, and one of the actors was talking about when he went in for not the interview, but to try for the role. And he said, anytime you're really excited about something or you're really anxious about something, that's when it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But, and you said this earlier, but when you aren't expecting anything out of it, or when you're not prioritizing it as, I guess, number one, that's when you start to see results. And that's when everything like comes together for some reason. And I've
Yeah.
even noticed that in my life. Like I was I was really excited to go to USC. And I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. Like I applied for other schools, but um, I just made it my number one priority. I need to get in USC. I need to make sure that this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I got waitlisted.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was, okay, I have all these options, but what do I do now? Because I didn't really look into all the other
Mm-hmm.
options. I just made sure I had others. So going into it sometimes without expecting the results that you want does help because it
Mm-hmm.
reduces that stress.
Yeah. I think that like you can be like being intentional is good. I think now it's like you have to, after a while you start to learn like the balance between being intentional and then understanding, I mean, seeing options, I guess. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you can be so intentional that you get narrow minded and you end up missing out on other options because you're so zoned in on what you're so intentional about. And it plays a part in the stress because now it's like if it didn't work out, now you really did put a lot of your eggs in one basket at that point.
Hmm.
So, might not put all of them in there, but the ones that were actually good you put in there. So it's like at that point, now you're stressing out to figure out the next plan of action. But that's why I was saying like the plan for if it don't. So it's like not necessarily saying that you have other options, but planning on being like
Not
clear
down.
minded. Yeah, being able to be clear minded even if it doesn't work out. So
Hmm.
it's like even if I didn't have something else lined up because I planned for it maybe not working out, I'm not too stressed to where I can't think of something else. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You said something about going with the flow a little bit or
Hmm.
something like that. And sometimes going with the flow, I know people say they laid back. I'm laid back. But sometimes going with the flow will stress you out
Yeah.
a lot because you allow life to happen to you.
Hmm.
So things just start hitting you over the head. You might be chilling or whatever, but you just getting hit over the head with rocks. And it's like, okay, are you planning to move? Are you planning to be, like what are you planning to do? You can't stay here. You can't be that laid back. You can't be that relaxed and just
Right.
let everything and just go with the flow. It sounds good. Sounds cool to say I'm going with the flow, but at the end of the day, you start to allow everything else around you to control
Hmm.
your time
Yep.
and
Because you get
control
to
your
a
life.
point, you get to a point where you're looking around like, I didn't plan on any of this happening. And when you really assess whatever was going on back here, it's I let it happen because I
Hmm.
didn't. You're not prioritizing anything. You're not planning anything or having a backup plan for anything. You're just like, okay, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And essentially, you let it happen.
Do you think people are more proactive or reactive?
I think more people are reactive. They find themselves in situations where, or we find ourselves in situations. I'm not even gonna say they, where you're not where you want to be, or you're not doing what you want to do, and uh, it takes a toll on you because now you're trying to backtrack or you're trying to make up for lost time or make up for people that you may have lost along the way. Think back to, advice that you may have been given and use that reactively instead of putting that in the forefront and saying, this is what's important. This is the suggestions or the advice or the guidance that I've gotten. Let me use it now so that later on it works or later on it makes sense. But using that reactively or just being a reactive person to situations, um, you do lose a lot of time and it causes a lot of stress because you just got to deal with it. And you're probably at a space and time where you have to deal with it now.
Yeah, I know I work in an environment that's very reactive. And it's kind of like, you become I'm a very proactive person. So you become a minority in a reactive environment and you start to feel like you're in this video game. Like you like the Legend of Zelda or something. You just walking around just fighting with the sword, everything that's coming around, just reacting to whatever pops up on the screen.
Hmm.
So, you know, um, I do think that people, and just in life, people react more because I think a lot of times people are taught to react more. I mean, people say, prepare for the worst, plan for the best, and all the other stuff. But really, what's really put in action is reaction, if that makes sense. What's put in action is reaction. Like you learn how to react more than you learn how to be proactive to a certain
Yeah,
degree for a lot of people, which is why certain provisions got to be put in place to counteract the people who react to everything.
right.
So,
And you made me think about something. How are we taught when we're kids or when we're growing up? It's this is a scenario, what do you do? This is
mhm.
a scenario, what do you do? It's never, okay, this might come up later. How are you going to plan for it? It's always, this is what's happening. I need you to fix it or I need you to react to it.
Or how do you prevent it? Even
That's
that.
that's how we're programmed.
Yeah. We live in a reactive society anyway. Everything is about reaction. They even got videos called reaction. So everything is a reaction. So I want to go into real quick. I admitted it. I admitted to everybody in the audience. I am a perfectionist. I like things done a specific way.
Hmm.
So, um, and I get very annoyed when things like don't get done in a specific way sometimes because it's like if I'm putting my all into making this right, I want it to be right. I don't want nothing to not be right. If I'm putting
Exactly.
all of my effort into making this be right, that's my gripe. Um, as far as being a perfectionist, but you said you were also. So how is that with you?
I'm pretty much the same way. Like I said, if I put my name on it, I want it to be right. I want it to say, "Oh yeah, that's something Kennedy did. That makes sense. It's done right. It's done well. It was done right the first time." And I also say that I grew up with my grandparents and with their siblings who really drilled into me: if you're going to do something, do it right the first time, so you don't have to go back and fix it.
Hmm.
And that's made me a perfectionist. I also try to be a very organized person. So if if you see like my house or if you see my like laptop, how I have things set up, everything has a home or everything
Hmm.
is in its place. And when people come over or when someone is just kind of in my bubble, it's like, why are you doing it that way? That's
Yeah.
not the right way because I'm
Do
used
you
to
tell
doing
do
it a
you tell
certain
them
way.
that, or you just think that? You tell them that, or it's just in your mind, like why are they doing it like that?
It depends on the person. Like if I'm really close to them, I'll say, "Why are you doing it that way?" You know that's not how I do things.
Hmm.
But most of the time, I try and say it in my head to be nice.
So I think I got one final question, and it's kind
Mhm.
of different than stress management, but it can play into how your stress management can play into this. So, how do you feel your reputation is? Let's just be more specific as far as like your work environment. How do you feel your reputation is? Because
Oh
sometimes
God.
the only reason I ask that is because sometimes our stress management if I have a certain look on my face, or the way I might project something a certain way based off of how stressed I am, it may play into my reputation, around, or in that environment, or just in general. So how do you feel your reputation is, or how does that play a part?
Mm. I feel like in my work environment, my reputation is actually pretty good. And I say that because there are a lot of people that have told me, we expect a lot out of you, and that puts a lot of pressure on people.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I've also kind of created that reputation for myself because I am a perfectionist. Like I wanted straight A's in school. I wanted to get the awards or whatever. I wanted to, feel like I was doing a good job and I
You
wanted
got
that to
straight A's
show.
in school? You got straight A's?
I was valedictorian.
I wanted straight A's. I didn't get it, but I wanted it though.
Mm-mm. A C in my house was like cursing.
Oh
that
yeah,
was
that's what it stands for. Okay.
that was getting a death threat.
Oh, gotcha.
um, but yeah, like I wanted to be that person that did well and could show that it's possible. So I think that I've kind of made that my reputation at work, which puts a lot of pressure on me from my management, but it also puts a lot more pressure on myself. And I put a lot more pressure on myself because of that. Because I don't want to do a bad job, or I don't want the reputation of, well, Kennedy will just let stuff happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that plays a lot into the stress level. There have been days where I'm just extremely overwhelmed at work because I don't feel like I'm doing a good job, or I don't feel like things are going right according to how my management think it should go, or how my team feels based on the decision that I've made. Uh, and there have been days where I just don't handle stress well. Like people have told me, yeah, we see it all on your face. I may not say anything about it because I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to be the type of person to complain or to make a big deal out of whatever's going on, even if it is causing me stress or overwhelming me. But my face will say it. My face
Mm-hmm.
says it all the time.
Yeah. How do you prioritize pressure? Like when you get in pressure in a situation, or just period. How do you how do you navigate through pressure?
Mm, the best way that I've found to reduce the pressure that I feel on myself is what is going to make my life easier in either 10 hours from now, or 24 hours from now, or even a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's high on the list of priorities and it's going to make my the next 24 hours much easier for me, okay, let's get it done. How long is it going to take to get it done? Um, if it's, a year from now, then I can deal with it. Until then, it's not that big of a deal. Just work with what you got right now. But if it's going to reduce the amount of stress that I have, either professionally or just in my personal life,
Mm-hmm.
I need it to be gone. Figure it out. Let's get it gone.
Get it out the way.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I as far as like how I approach pressure, or any pressure put on me or whatever, it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I deflect. I will say that. Sometimes I will deflect depending on what the pressure is, and what what my priorities are at that moment. So,
Hmm.
um if I feel like it's something that's unnecessary, I probably ain't gonna care too much for it.
Right.
But if it's something that I feel is a part of my day, a lot of times I will make it a part of me, if that makes sense. Like I can be competitive, so I may see that as a challenge and go from there.
Hmm.
And I don't really see it as pressure no more. I kind of just see it as a challenge for me to just do something more, do something different, or whatever the case is. But um, so pressure for me, sometimes I don't see it as pressure. It's going to be not pressure, or it's going to be or it's going to be a goal for me. So I don't feel like somebody's like bearing down on my back saying, this got to be done or something like that, and I'm just going to be, you know, feeling all the effects from it. I
Mm,
kind of just say, hey, I compartmentalize it and say, hey, I'm gonna put this in this box, I'm gonna put this in that box, and then go from there.
mm.
So
It seems like it's easy to compartmentalize for most people, but for me, it's not. If I feel pressure about anything, or kind of like you said, if I feel like it's some sort of competition, or I've been challenged, or even the one thing to make me move, or to make me actually do something or find results for something, is to tell me I can't do it or it
oh
can't be
really?
done. Yeah,
Challenge you in that way.
yeah. That's when I feel like, okay, watch it. Let's see. Let's see if I can do it. Um, that's when I put the most pressure on myself. But that's the one thing someone can tell me, you can't do it. Okay.
No. Well, I'm glad I didn't have to tell you you couldn't do this podcast today because you know you came through. I appreciate you coming. We're gonna wrap it up, but I appreciate you coming on the
Always.
podcast, giving your perspective. I'm starting something new. I'm gonna start, even though this is Kevin's perspective, I want to start something, getting another perspective. So that's gonna be a different part of the channel. So, audience, you know, a round of applause to Miss Kennedy Corley coming through. Kevin's perspective. She'll be back again sometime. I don't know when. It
I
depends
definitely
on what we
will.
talk about. Depending on what we're talking about. But thank you for coming. And to everybody else, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Peace out.